House has passed a funding bill that keeps the government open and provides billions of dollars for a border wall.
On this vote, the ayes are 217 and the nays are 185. The motion is adopted without objection. A motion to reconsider is laid on the table.
The bill will now go to the Senate, where its fate is much more uncertain. Before the House vote, Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer said there's no way Republicans have the votes that will get it through the Senate. Special Counsel Robert Mueller is expected to submit his final report on the Russian investigation as early as mid-February. NBC News cites government officials as saying Mueller's team is tying up loose ends as it nears the end of its probe into Russian meddling. Defense Secretary Jim Mattis will step down in February. President Trump announced Mattis's retirement on Twitter. In a resignation letter, Mattis suggested his policy disagreements with Trump played into his decision to leave the administration. Russian President Vladimir Putin held his annual news conference today. Correspondent Bill Zimfer reports he touched on a number of issues involving the United States.
Putin answered dozens of questions in the hours-long news conference covering both domestic and international issues. The United States figured prominently in the session, with Putin saying he applauded the decision to pull U.S. troops out of Syria. He also said the U.S. decision to pull out of arms treaties is forcing Russia to modernize its weapons systems and capabilities. He also answered a question about Maria Butina, arrested in the United States. Putin saying she was never under the direction of the Russian government, and he's not even sure why she was arrested. Bill Zimfer, NBC News Radio.
SpaceX is now hoping Saturday will be the day it launches a Falcon 9 rocket from Cape Canaveral Air Force Station. There's an 80% chance of favorable weather when the launch window opens at 8:55 a.m. Eastern Time. You're listening to the latest from NBC News Radio.
Avila Truck Sales in La Puente reminds area employers that more local military service men and women will be returning home over the next few months. These heroes have elite training, valuable professional skills, and unmatched mission focus. That's why Avila Truck Sales urges all area employers to hire smart and hire vets. That patriotic reminder is courtesy of Avila Truck Sales in La Puente, where they are on the air saluting our vets, those currently serving, and all other area military families. Tyler Commercial Construction in Irvine salutes our American soldiers. Their sacrifices ensure our freedom here and abroad. Tyler Commercial Construction urges listeners to send the holiday spirit from home in a military care package today. Type military care package into your favorite search engine. Point and click. It's that easy. Let's show our troops we care. That patriotic reminder is from the caring staff of Tyler Commercial Construction in Irvine. They are another patriotic American business on the air because they care.
KCAA.
Live from the NBC News Radio broadcasting studios of KCAA, 1050 AM, 102.5 FM, and 106.5 FM, located in beautiful sunny California. Thanks for tuning into the Water Zone this afternoon. Good afternoon. I'm your host, Rob Starr, along with Mr. Chris Davies, who is calling in from Sustainable Claremont. And but today is Act Show, so I know he knows that, but he wanted to be part of the show. So, Chris, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, Rob Starr. Thanks very much. I'm sorry I couldn't be there. You know, we have fly-in guests from the old country, so I'm spending a little time with them.
Are their arms tired?
Oh, very good.
Okay, well, it depends where they came from. You know, it's a long flapping kind of thing. Well, we do appreciate you on tonight, and you know it is Ag Night because we talked about that this morning. And
yeah,
you could have knocked on the door and came to my office. I know you left me a note, but you could have knocked. Came in. I didn't hear what you told our studio engineer, but I'm going to beat it out of him afterwards because he said he couldn't tell me. So I'm going to find out what the reason was. But anyway, today's Ag Night, and we have our wonderful host, Miss Ingy Bisconer, and we have two wonderful guests. And I was going to say who they are, but I'm going to let Ingy do that because she's special.
Oh, thank you, Rob. And I appreciate that you and Chris always join me on Ag Night because, you know, agriculture is not just for the agricultural people, it's also for all of us, you know, urbanites as well. Because we grow food so that we can all eat 3 times a day, right?
That's right, and I need to eat.
Yes.
I need to keep my shape round.
Yes. Yes. We, and as we all know, your wife says that you are in shape. Right? You're round.
Yeah.
I love that joke.
Yeah. You're sticking up for her. That's okay.
That's right. We do have a wonderful show tonight. It is, as tradition holds, it's the preview to the California Irrigation Institute conference that's in February this year. So we have a couple of guests that will be discussing that. And that actually is a conference that covers all facets of California water, not just agriculture, but agriculture, urban, environment. So our guests will cover that. And then at the end of the show, we're going to run an interview of the recipient of the Irrigation Association's 2018 Industry Achievement Award, Mr. Jim Clouser of Clearwater Supply.
Absolutely.
So we should
and
warn everybody to stay on after the commercial break, because it's a great interview with a great guy.
Absolutely. And I know one of the guests, because he's been on our show before, but I've dealt with him over 16 years, so he's a good guy. Yeah,
so let me introduce our guest. We're going to be talking about the California Irrigation Institute Conference in Sacramento, and we have with us the 2018-2019 season president of the CII board, and that is Bill McDonald with Metropolitan Water. How are you doing, Bill?
Very good. Hi, Rob. How you doing?
I'm doing good, Bill. Haven't seen you in a long time.
I know. I'm still around. I'm still here.
I know.
But thank you for having me on. Very much appreciated.
And thank you for. I heard you were at your office because you didn't want to be on the cell phone on the train.
I know. I'm toiling away here at my office.
Okay.
Either that or I'd be on the train ride home.
Okay.
That'd be good.
You get home at a decent hour?
I'll be home and then I'll go to bed.
Okay.
We're working you hard tonight. We appreciate you staying on. And along with Bill is the California Irrigation Institute's Executive Director, Catherine Chandler. Welcome, Catherine.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And, Catherine has been on the show before, past years, along with the current presidents to discuss the conference. So she's an old hat at this, so no worries. So for our listening audience, let me introduce both Bill and Catherine's background, and then we'll dive into previewing the conference. So, Bill, you are the manager of water efficiency for the Metropolitan Water District of Southern California, otherwise known as MET. It's a really, really big organization. Bill has a BA from the University of Massachusetts and an MBA from University of Laverne. His team manages conservation programs for commercial, industrial, and residential customers covering MWD's service area of 19 million people. Rob, is that more people than listen to the radio show? Rob? I don't know how many people listen to the radio show, but it's mostly all of Southern California. So I don't know. I think Bill, I think you service more people than the radio show. So that's
maybe. And I should have said too, we do have some ag in our area too. So there is ag in there that we service also. Yeah,
so people and farms, and I'm sure some environmental entities too. So
yep.
Bill, you've got more than 30 years experience in water and energy efficiency. In addition, you're the president of the board of directors of the California Irrigation Institute. Sorry, I already said that. But in addition, you are also the chair of the City of Chino Hills Public Works Commission. You're also on the board of directors of the Alliance for Water Efficiency and the California Water Efficiency Partnership.
Yep.
So we look forward to hearing all of that power come to play in helping us solve our water problems here in California.
Thank you.
And then Catherine has been the executive director for the California Irrigation Institute for the past 5 years. And Catherine previously worked for the California Farm Water Coalition up in the Sacramento area and Reclamation District 108. She and her lovely husband, Tom, who we know very well because he was also on the California Irrigation Institute Board of Directors, they farm almonds in the San Joaquin Valley along with citrus, tree fruit, and vines, along with the husband's family. So welcome again, Catherine, to the show.
Thank you.
All right. Well, Bill, we'll fire off some questions to you first.
Sure.
Tell us first just a little bit about yourself and how you became involved in California water, being apparently a Massachusetts guy. irrigation and
from Boston.
And that. Yeah, I know. I can tell from all the teams that you root for. Where are you from?
I know. I just got back from there last week, also. So, but I started my career in Massachusetts, and I was doing energy efficiency. Energy is a big deal there, and then eventually moved out to California in the '80s and worked for utilities that do energy and water, like the city of Pasadena and the city of Anaheim, as they do water and energy, and that's where I got my feet wet doing both water and energy efficiency programs. Then eventually, in the '90s, moved on to Metropolitan and just did water. So I've been doing either water or energy since basically the early '80s, and that's kind of how I got into water, and I really enjoy it. It's very complex, it's very interesting, and it's very, very challenging.
Yeah, it is a challenging area because it's so necessary. There is no life without water, and we basically live in a desert here in Southern California, right?
Yeah, if I had in Massachusetts when I was home for the last week, it rained almost every day, so yeah. we don't have that issue here.
We don't have that luxury. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about the California Irrigation Institute and how you became involved with it. Who goes to this meeting and who's on the board and things like that.
Well, what's really interesting is the California Irrigation Institute's been around almost as long as I have. They've been around 57 years and putting on this annual Urban and Ag Conference. And the way I got involved was Metropolitan's been involved with California Irrigation Institute for a long time, and we eventually had somebody here that was involved retire many, many years ago, and since my work does ag and urban, it just seemed like a natural fit because CII is ag and urban, that I get involved in the organization, and it's been very rewarding ever since, working with all the folks on the board, like yourselves and Catherine, that are involved in ag or like I say, are on the urban side. And that's kind of how I got involved and been involved for these last numerous years.
Yeah, so the board consists of academia and associations and some consultants and some water districts and a little bit of everything, huh?
Yeah, that's what's really interesting is getting to work with folks from the California Farm Bureau, Cal Poly Irrigation Training Center, UC Davis, yourselves at Toro, Coachella Valley, DWR, and so all of these folks bring just a wide range and a very big depth of knowledge to the board, and so it really makes, I think, for one of the better boards I've ever been on because it is so unique and different.
Yeah, I have found it very rewarding as well. So kudos to you on that. So Bill, this year's theme is manage our land to manage our water. Tell us a little bit about how that evolved and maybe give a brief overview of the general session and some of the key ag, urban, and joint panel discussions.
Sure. Well, what we try to do every year is really try to come up with a unique urban and ag theme for the conference, something that touches on both. And when you think about it, especially here, I'm in obviously Southern California, we're really focused on landscape, as you know, being with Toro. We're really focused on landscape out here. We still do a lot of commercial, still do a lot of industrial, still do a lot of residential, and do indoor water efficiency. But landscaping in residential and commercial for urban water users is really going to be our focus now and in the future. And so that tie between water and land in urban is getting stronger. And that tie has always been there with ag between water and land. It's vital. The land is used to grow, and obviously water to you need that. So both entities, ag and urban, have that have that connection of linking the two together of water and land, and that's kind of how we came up with that with our session. Is because how do you manage both of those, and how do you manage them in this very complex state of California? And so that's what the conference will talk about.
Yeah, because we're basically using our land to replenish our groundwater too, and then our mountainous lands hold our water as snowpack, which is our water supply, and then our lands also provide ecosystem services. So, as I recall, our discussion, it seems like all those things kind of played into, just as you said, they're connected, and we need to understand one in order to manage the other.
Exactly. Both land is tied into the demand, like I was talking about with and then it's also tied into is exactly what you explained, the supply. So, right. So the land and water mix is tied into both ends of the water spectrum, the supply and the demand, and it's just all linked together. And it's just a fascinating topic. Yeah.
Well, tell us about the keynote and the luncheon speaker. Glenda Humiston, the keynote, and Brad Udall, the luncheon speaker.
Well, we've been really lucky this year, and we have been in the other years too, is to have two great speakers. Our first is our keynote, and Glenda, and she is the Vice President of Agriculture and Natural Resources at UC Agriculture and Natural Resources, and she's going to be, talking about the big picture of both of them together. As far as the close connection between water and land. And somebody like that will be able to give us a good vision to kick off the conference with. And that's kind of what we're looking for in our keynote speaker. And so Glenda will be able to do that. And then in our luncheon speaker, it's Brad Udall, and Brad is from Colorado State, where my son goes. And so he's a senior water and climate research scientist there. And Brad I've heard him speak before, and he's a fascinating speaker, really engaging. And he will bring all the different climate policy, water, and land, kind of pulling all that together, along with all the different challenges that we face with all our different water supplies. And so he's going to be a fascinating luncheon speaker. So we have really two very, very good speakers that I hope people can make to hear.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. I have not heard Brad, but I have heard Glenda several times, and she's just dynamite. So, well, cool. Well, what about the opening panel? Who's on that?
So on our opening panel, we'll have Santa Clara Valley and Santa Clara Valley Open Space Authority. We'll have the general manager there, Andrea McKenzie. We also have Solutions from the Land, which with A.G. Kawamura, who's the co-chair of that, and then the National Audubon Society, Megan Herzl, the director of Land and Water Conservation. So we're trying to bring, as you can see, land and cities and open space and kind of a whole group of people together on that opening panel. So just as everywhere else in the conference, a very good diverse panel there.
Yeah, that should really set up nicely for then the separate sessions that will occur over the next day and a half, which, traditionally there are ag-oriented sessions and then urban-oriented sessions. So tell us a little bit about the first ag session, which is titled Updates on Available Technology in Ag.
Yeah, so exactly. The way the conference is set up is we do have separate tracks for ag and separate tracks for urban, but then what's interesting, too, is we have combined tracks for ag and urban, bringing both of them together on some common themes. And so the first session is on new technology, and it's new technology in ag in one session and new technology in urban in the other section. And so both of those sections will be going over different types of technology that affect both of their sectors. In ag, we'll have folks there from UC Davis and Lawrence Berkeley, San Mateo Resource Conservation District. So we'll have looking at the role of technology in renewable electricity, irrigation technologies, just a wide range. And then also on the urban side, we're actually touching, first time I've been to a conference that's going to touch on cannabis, because that's going to be an issue in some of the urban sectors. How is that going to affect some of the urban sectors? And then also CIMIS, and how CIMIS is working with the urban sectors. And over on the urban side, we're going to have Warren Gorowitz from Ewing Irrigation, and who's a vice president there of sustainability. We have Dr. Holly Hall from the Watershed Resources, East Bay Municipal Utility District, bringing in some more, urban side. So it's just a good mix of folks there.
Yeah, it really is, and I am intrigued with this whole cannabis thing and how it's affecting water supply. And then for our listening audience that may not know what CIMIS is, it's the California Irrigation Management Information System. And it's an important entity here in California for both ag and urban water use. So we usually have something on CIMIS, don't we?
Yeah, it seems like, in fact, even in our next sessions, we'll have some more information, because one of the things that CIMIS does is give you lots of data, and that's kind of what's going. The next sessions talk about data, because both ag and urban, as technology changes, one of the results of new technology, just like in our personal life, is lots of data and lots of information. So how do you deal with it at home, or at work? It's the same thing in this. And so that's why the second session is very interesting, is how both ag and urban are going to deal with all of this data and all of this information. And more of it's coming, whether it's satellite, whether it's in-ground, and what are we going to do with all that data, and how do we parse it out? So the second sessions, both ag and urban, deal with that issue.
Yeah, I'm excited about that too, because it's almost a problem. I mean, we love technology, and this big data and getting all this data is great, but at the end of the day, we need to make decisions. And you either take the human out of it and let data run everything, or you help convert that data into something that is like a recommendation for the human behavior part. And so I think we'll hear a lot about that in the second session on how we might translate that. And that's what we need. So let's move on to the session 3, which is the combined sessions, where we put everybody in the big room. And
these are
what are we going to hear about there?
So these are some of my favorites, because I love the interaction between the two groups in one large room. And so basically, when we have our combined session, or joint sessions, as we call them, one of the sessions we're going to be going over some recent legislation, AB 1668 and SB 606. And basically, this is new statewide legislation that affects both ag and urban, basically mandating conservation and mandating reporting, and going back to what we talked about, and mandating collecting of data and reporting data to the state. And so we're going to have some people there talking about what the impacts are of this legislation on the ag side and on the urban side. So that should be very interesting.
Very good. And then finally, there's a session with a bunch of acronyms in it. Tell us about that one.
The last session is kind of what you talked about at the beginning of the interview, is groundwater, and it's talking about Sustainable Groundwater Management Act. And because if the state is getting water from either underground or we're importing it, and there's a lot of rules and regulations now on importing water, and a lot of rules and regulations on groundwater. And so some folks have a lot of groundwater, and some folks have none, and some folks' groundwater is contaminated, and some folks is deep, and some is shallow. And so it's going to be interesting, because this session is going to talk about the new rules and exactly what we talked about before, data and reporting and groundwater management. And so it's a huge source of water here in the state of California, and the state wants folks to report on it and keep records of it and maintain it. And so we're going to have some really good and interesting topics on that.
Yeah, and, from my view, rightly so. I mean, I think California is the last state in the nation, maybe there's one other, I think maybe Texas, where groundwater was really not regulated by the government. And
right.
now it is with this new law from, 2 or 3 years ago.
Right.
Because otherwise we were really sucking it dry during the drought. It's really our savings account of water. And if we don't regulate it when the snowpack is low and we don't regulate it, it could be gone, and that could be really bad if we don't have any snowpack and we don't have any groundwater. So we don't want a tragedy of the commons, right?
Right, because if without regulation, people were pulling out 3 or 4 gallons and putting in 1. Well, it doesn't take long before that has some consequences. And so this session is really interesting because it affects both ag and urban, because both of them rely on it to different degrees.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, great, Bill. Thank you for that overview of the conference content. I'd now like to move over to Catherine and let her tell us a little bit about herself and how she became involved in water and farming and almonds and all that stuff. Catherine.
Yes. Well, thank you. I think, like a lot of people, life is a journey. So I'm not sure I knew I was going to be here from the beginning, but it started actually back when I was in high school. My family was living in a small town in eastern Washington, and like many small towns, farming and agriculture was the business of the community. And anyway, so I just kind of got involved just because that's what was around me. But then my dad happened to be working for the Army Corps of Engineers for his career, and he kind of started nudging me to look at water as I was graduating college. I think broadened my perspective. Because water is such a valuable input, not just for farming, but every person depends on water in so many different ways and so many industries. And so it was a good nudge from Dad there. And my first job out of college was working with Mike Wade at the Farm Water Coalition. So that was just a great overview to the state of California and how water moves throughout the state. So I think I did my career backwards, though.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure you got a great education from Mike.
I did. So I did policy, and then I worked for an irrigation district, and now I'm at the farm. I think most people do it the other way, going from farming to policy. But anyways, it's been enjoyable. Yeah.
Well, I think it's a great background to bring you to the farm and to be an enlightened farmer. I mean, it's nothing better. So, well, congratulations on that progress. Well, Catherine, in addition to all the speakers we just heard about, what else are people looking to gain from this conference?
Yeah, I think definitely we are a professional event. Our purpose is really to be a technical educational forum. So with that said, we do offer continuing education units through the Certified Crop Advisor program, as well as the Irrigation Association. They have several programs for irrigation managers and water use efficiency coordinators. And so we partner with those organizations to help folks continue in their education with that. And we also are just a great opportunity for folks to interact, as both you and Bill were mentioning. This event does attract individuals from all over the state, from very different backgrounds, whether it's metropolitan water districts and these very urban settings of the cities, and folks like myself who are on the farm. And so we do have a reception Monday night where folks can interact with the exhibitors, but they can also just interact with one another, and it's a great opportunity to get connected and to talk with folks. Something else that we started for the first time last year that seemed to be really popular is we do have quite a few students that attend our event.
Yeah.
And so they bring posters related to their school research, and they showcase them during the reception. They're up during the entire event, but at the reception, the students are there with their poster, and our attendees do a really great job of engaging the students and inquiring more about them. So it's a great opportunity for college students as well.
Yeah, there are a lot of students now, and I think it's just wonderful to see all their young faces excited about the future, and I happily look at them and think that, yeah, there is hope to solve some of the problems that we've all created. What about awards? Are there some awards?
So our big award that our organization has handed out every year is the Irrigation Person of the Year. And like many awards, since we are such a large board of directors and we are a very diverse group of directors, we all kind of pull our heads together to try and think of someone who has really contributed to the industry as a whole. And so we announced at the conference a person that we want to honor for their contributions to the water industry. And so we have the big reveal during our luncheon.
Yeah. And exhibitors, do conference attendees have a chance to actually interface with some of this technology and education resources?
Yeah, so we do have a wide array of exhibitors. Definitely our university system is present in that. We have Cal Poly in there, Irrigation Training and Research Center present. And then Fresno State comes, and they have a booth. We have the Department of Water Resources. The U.S. Bureau of Reclamation is one of our exhibitors. Definitely Toro's there, so we have representation for some of our manufacturing. Precision agriculture is represented there, as well as a lot of new technologies coming on the urban side. We have a lot of, smart controllers, and just like I said, it's a very diverse group. So we have a reception for folks to engage with the exhibitors and make time to kind of see what is there, as well as an opportunity to engage with some of these other folks who are resources for our attendees. And we also scheduled deliberate time in our conference program, especially on the last day, so that, everybody gets busy at a conference, but we have time to sit and interact and talk with folks, especially.
Yeah, it's really a scheduled part of the conference, not just the speakers, but the exhibition, which is really nice.
Yeah,
so,
I think it works out well.
Yeah. So what does it cost to attend CII, and who sponsors the conference?
Yeah. So our big sponsors is CoBank. They are a farm credit, part of the farm credit system, and Yosemite Farm Credit, as well as Metropolitan Water District. So we're very grateful for them.
Thank you, Bill.
It keeps our registration rate very affordable. So it's only $225 for 2 days. We promise we'll feed you lunch. We even have muffins and coffee for breakfast. And then we have, as I mentioned, we have the first night, we have an exhibitor reception. So we have some complimentary wine and hors d'oeuvres, so you can stay a little bit later and talk with folks. And so if you would like to join our exhibitors, it's only $375, and you still get the same benefits of registration. So you still are welcome to join our luncheons, participate in the reception, of course, and attend the sessions as well.
Yeah, it's it has been very well attended over the last, 57 years old now, right? And I think it's kind of a new dynamic in the last couple of years that I felt, and maybe it's because of all the students, I don't know, but it just feels like there's optimism and there's a buzz, and there's just
we have energy. There's definitely an energy, I think.
Yeah, and that's pretty exciting. So with just the couple of minutes that we have left, about 3 minutes here, tell us both, Bill and Catherine, what do you hope the outcome might be from this year's particular conference with our kind of a unique theme and some heavy hitters as keynote and luncheon speaker? Catherine, I'll start with you.
Well, yeah, I mean, definitely our mission is to be a technical educational forum and a resource for individuals in irrigation and water. So definitely, I think as the executive director, I really hope people can take home learn something new that they can take home and directly apply, as well as just an opportunity to meet other people from other parts of our state and even other parts of just our little water industry. It is a large industry in its own way. So
yeah. And if people can't attend, can they kind of get the gist of the conference another way?
Definitely. So all of our past events, our speakers are very generous to give us their PowerPoint presentations. And so after the event, within the week, we post all of the slides and PowerPoint presentations on our website.
And actually, many of the students present posters, and those posters are then available to view online as well. Is that correct, as a PDF?
Yeah, we try. So like I said, this is a new program for us, so I won't promise.
Yeah.
But we try, and they've been very well received, and attendees really have enjoyed the posters. So
yes, I would agree with that. Well, thank you, Catherine. And Bill, anything that you'd like to add with the last minute that we have here? Either the outcome or anything else?
No, basically, kind of what Catherine said. I think if people attend, I think they'll find it doesn't matter where they're coming from in the state or even out of state, or if they're in an ag or an urban environment. I think it's a small enough conference to where there's a lot of interaction, and you can talk to experts in the field. You can attend the sessions and learn a lot. So I think the takeaway is folks should be attending or telling folks to attend, because it's really a cost-effective way to learn a lot.
Well, thank you both for joining us tonight, and I certainly look forward to seeing both of you at the conference February 4th through the 6th at the hotel venue. Catherine is...
Oh, it's Catherine, not...
I think it is the Hilton Arden West again?
It's the Hilton Arden.
It is.
It's the Hilton Arden West. And it's February 4th and 5th at the Hilton Arden. And just check out our website, California Irrigation Institute.
Yeah, California Irrigation Institute. The website is actually www.caii.org. Thank you both, and back over to you, Rob.
Hey, that was great. Thank you guys for being on, both Catherine and Bill. It's surely interesting to a lot of listeners who don't know that these things are happening, and if they are in the industry, they know it's going to happen, and now we gave more information what's going to happen, so that's a good deal. So we're going to take a little break here, then we'll be back with our interview of Mr. Clauser at the IA show that we did, and so stick around. We'll be back in just 1 minute.
Time to take a water break and talk some water. Irrigation. Such a refreshing topic. As more and more markets face water restrictions, your customers may be hungry, or should I say thirsty, for water-saving products. For new installations, add options like drip irrigation, controllers that respond to weather data, pressure regulating heads, or heads with check valves. They all provide easy ways to differentiate your bids and win more jobs. Or for an extra stream of revenue, offer existing customers upgrades like high-efficiency nozzles, rotary nozzles, or Wi-Fi-based controllers. Because when you help your customers save water,
You make a world of difference for the earth and your bottom line at the same time. We'll drink to that.
Hi, welcome back to the second half of the Water Zone Show. Hope everybody had a good time listening in on the first. So we're going to, one thing you can say about our show, our conversation is not dry. We try to give our thirsty listeners lots of information. I should keep my day job and not be a comedian. Anyway, we're going to get into a conversation Ingy and I had with an award winner at the IA show. So here we go.
Hey, welcome to the Water Zone. This is Ingy Bisconner and Rob Starr with a guest, a very special guest here at the 2018 Irrigation Association show.
I'm excited.
I am too.
and I am as well.
Because I'm looking at Jim Clauser. Hi, Jim. How are you?
Well, I'm doing quite well.
He is doing quite well. He got a huge award this morning at the Irrigation Association's annual award ceremony. He got the Industry Achievement Award.
My hands are red from clapping.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
We're all just worn out.
Now, I may mention that, Ingy, you were the past honoree in that regard 2 years ago.
Well, I was, and it is a huge honor, and I was so pleased that our efforts to successfully have you receive this award transpired today. And thanks for joining us on the show and telling us a little bit about what you shared in your on-stage interview today.
I'm honored to be here.
Just for our listening audience, so the Industry Achievement Award is the highest honor that the IA gives anybody. Jim just received it from Deb Hamlin and the current IA president, Warren Gorowitz. And it's a really cool blue dot crystal little statue.
Award, yes.
Yeah, so you'll have it.
I didn't get a blue dot. I just had a clear one.
Jim has a machine shop, and I can just see it on top of his toolbox. I can just. So, Jim, tell us a little bit about your background, how you ended up in this field of drip irrigation up in the Treasure Valley of Oregon.
Okay, I'd originally been a research representative for a number of pesticide manufacturers, and had felt that I was always the bad guy. The farmers in the area never appreciated having to pay for pesticides to protect their crops. Yield potential. Moving to the irrigation arena, and more specifically the drip irrigation arena where it's cutting edge technology, I became the good guy. Growers are very, very happy and interested and willing to work with those that provide water, that provides the life-giving juice, if you may, for their crops. And that really attracted me to where I now was the good guy.
Yeah, that's great. So you're growing stuff rather than killing stuff? Is that?
Yes.
Kind of to sum it up. Well, I know that you and others, such as Dr. Clinton Schock from Oregon State University, worked on an issue that was happening with your growers in the Treasure Valley, probably starting about 10 years ago. They were on the cusp of getting regulated because of nitrate issues in the groundwater. And you guys rode your big white horses, otherwise known as Ford pickups, to the rescue and helped them overcome this problem. Tell us about that.
Well, I might mention those pickups had round wheels with Aquatrax rolls on them.
There you go.
Actually goes back a little bit further, Ingy. In 1989, the Treasure Valley was identified as having a particularly high level of nitrates in the groundwater. And Clint Schock, as you'd mentioned before, had stepped back and said, where is this nitrogen coming from, and is there anything that we can do to remedy this issue? And he soon discovered that in particular onions, they used a lot of nitrogen, and in combination with furrow irrigation, they were pushing a lot of nitrogen from that crop into the groundwater. So Clint then stepped back and said, okay, well, how can we reduce the amount of water going into the system? And that led him to drip irrigation. At that point, I magically arrived on the scene in 2000.
Perfect timing.
It worked out. And between the two of us as a team, we have managed to be able to move the onion crop to over 80% of the crop is now drip irrigated.
Wow.
We have reduced the amount of nitrates that we use on the crop Clint's studies say that they need 100 units of nitrogen, and we are now delivering around 110 units of nitrogen to grow the crops. That actually technically is a over amount, but the growers are a little bit more conservative. But when you give it the perspective that they came from 300 units of nitrogen earlier, that we have made vast inroads into the reduction of nitrates within our groundwater, and without any regulation. This was all done on a voluntary basis. When we were faced with regular regulation people from the state coming in and almost on the verge of mandating regulations, and the growers stepped up the plate and said, we will voluntarily institute practices, particularly drip irrigation, to minimize that. And to date, now more than 20 years later, that has been very successful.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, it's always a great win-win story when you can solve a problem without forcing somebody to do it. It's totally the carrot. And the growers were probably more profitable at this point because they're being better farmers, they're irrigating better, getting more yield and better quality, and at the same time not causing a problem.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
By ironics, in a couple of weeks we're having a gentleman named Dr. Christopher Jones. I don't know if you've heard of him. He's from the University of Iowa, and he's done a lot of studies on nitrates in the water. And I was doing some back research on what that can cause children. You can get sick.
Blue babies.
Blue babies, yes. It's a bad thing.
I was amazed. I mean, I was unaware of all of this until I started talking to him, and he's going to be on the show in a couple of weeks, and I want to get some more information. So this is perfect. This is absolutely perfect.
No, water quality is a huge issue. It messes up the environment, it messes up people, and using technology like drip irrigation, and as you said, aquatrax or flow control in particular, you can really take the growers to the next level.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's amazing what the private industry can do without the government coming in and telling you what to do.
Yeah, we need the government. I mean, we need some rules and regulations, and give us some guidance, because sometimes people will, you give them an inch and they'll take a yard. But it is always nice to see the growers step up and do it on their own.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure.
That's the one key on that, though, is that the technology that has to be introduced has to have a good return on investment. Maybe not immediately, but they need to be seeing a profit incentive there, and that's been a
they're
key
business
issue.
People. They have to stay in business.
Thrive.
And this is a shout out to you. You know, we manufacturers can do all sorts of tricks and have magic in our products, but we need people like you, the practitioners in the field, who buy the product, package it appropriately for the grower, for it to be successful. You don't just design the system, sell it, install it, and run. You stay and help, and that's why you get the award.
We do a lot of service things. We have an extensive training system for our growers and for their on-farm laborers. We provide guidance on irrigation scheduling, agronomic advisement as far as fertilizer applications. Me, since I have a background in pesticide research, I've cooperated with various pesticide manufacturers to get insecticides and fungicides and herbicides registered through drip irrigation that will directly be applicable to our pests and problems within the Treasure Valley. So it's a vast community effort, if you may.
Yeah, I bet a lot of people, you know, in our listening audience probably don't know all the intricacies and all the technology and science behind growing crops and plants, which is our food supply.
Oh, yes.
Rob and I like to eat 3 times a week, so we're happy that those farmers are...
A little more than you.
We're happy that our growers are growing food. So agronomic, tell us in layman's terms, what in the heck does agronomic mean?
Well, agronomics is basically the science of growing the crop. It includes cultural practices such as how you till the ground to prepare it, or not till the ground to prepare for seeding, as the case may be. There's agronomics includes the aspect of crop selection and seed propagation. It includes the aspect of pest control that you have involved. It also involves irrigation, and then following it all the way through into harvest and right into storage. So there's a number of aspects that agronomics or agronomy covers. It's a very large blanket.
Yeah.
So on the storage part, I used to be in a different business with the Emerson Company. We did what was called modified atmosphere packaging.
Yes.
Where you have a lot of people that had different crops that they would store, like bananas or fruits or vegetables, and they would go in these big rooms that were sealed, and then they put modified gas into it. Just like when you buy potato chips.
Yeah.
People think they just put air in it, but they don't. It's a mixture of stuff to make it last longer.
Hey, there's a marketing idea. We can put laughing gas inside, some potato chips, and
that would make it a lot more fun.
We can call them Happy Doodles.
Yeah. I like that. Well, Jim, you tell a wonderful story about your work ethic. And I've worked with you for years, and it's been an honor and a pleasure to do so. And I know that you have an incredible work ethic, which is another reason why you got this award. So tell us a little bit about where you got your work ethic.
It's always the mom.
No. This is actually this one's the pop. Yeah,
okay.
It's the dad.
You got to think back when.
And there's a little red tractor involved.
No. This one's green.
Oh,
this
green
one's
tractor.
green.
Okay, all right.
When I was 11, 12 years old, I really don't know specifically, the big goal for me was being able to drive the tractor. I mean, I was raised on a ranch, and the opportunity to do that was a real driver for me, and I spent a couple of weeks being really good, did all my chores on time, and I did my homework and did everything that I needed to do. And,
tall order.
Yeah, and trying to build up and grease the wheels for this. Yes, grooming, that's a good word. And so the day came, I finally got my dad to spend some particular time teaching me how to run the mower and run the tractor. So we spent all morning him checking me out and all. And we came in at lunch, and I was pretty excited. And when we came out of the house, he said, "Okay, now Jim, I want you to go out and I want you to mow." He said, what I want you to do is to mow till dark, and then turn the lights on and do 2 more rounds. And what I have taken on a personal level is that's my mantra. I do what's expected of me. I work till dark, and then I turn the lights on and do 2 more rounds. And that's what I have done to excel in my vocation, is do what was expected and then do somewhat more so that I could be a little bit ahead of the game.
That's awesome.
Yeah, isn't that cool?
Yeah.
And today he really gave some thanks and appreciation to a few special people that helped him get there, and one of them was his wife, who, of course, Lynn was closing down the kitchen usually at a normal time. And Jim, did she feed you late?
Oh, yes. Every time.
Yeah.
She would joke and tease me and tell me at 8 o'clock kitchen's closed, but when I'd get in at 10 or 11, she was there. Yeah. And I have to count on her. She is
How
tremendous.
many years?
Oh, gee, we've been married 26 years now.
Oh, congratulations. Well, yes. I know that you've recently decided to slow down a bit, at least from the work front, and retire and pursue maybe some consulting and maybe some fun stuff. So what's next for Jim?
I've actually started down the consulting road recently. I've initiated contacts and actually made a trip to Europe to look at the possibility of introduction of drip irrigation on onions in Europe. And other aspects, I am talking with the local community college about rejuvenating their agronomy curricula.
Oh.
And the local community college is rightly focused on livestock, which is a component of our area, but they've sort of neglected the cropping side, and I think it's time that we initiate it. And myself and a number of industry people from the onion industry want to start really ramping up that curricula, and I want to be involved in that.
That doesn't sound a whole lot like retirement to me, and that's what people are saying to me too.
It's fun for you.
It's a rumor for me.
No, I think you will be able to slow down and turn the wrench a little more. I know you're really passionate about mechanics and
my antique trucks.
Yeah, and he does a lot of hiking, and he's a little bit of a rock hound.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, we wish you the best in your free time, and also I'm glad you're going to stay engaged because you have so much knowledge. Take it to Europe. Why not?
Yeah.
Might as well.
I think it'd be good. So it'd be good for the world.
Anything else you want to add before we sign off?
No, I believe we've got it covered. I appreciate the opportunity to be here and continue to work with Toro.
All right.
And we thank your contribution to the industry.
Thank you
very much, sir.
Thank you.
All right, well, that's it from the Water Zone from the IA Show 2018. Right. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
This just in from the Arizona Daily Star. Snowpack in trouble across the West and around the globe, researchers say. From the Colorado Rockies to the Tibet Plateau to the Greenland Sea, snowpack that provides billions of people with drinking water is suffering long-term declines. Ingy, do you know about that?
Yes. I was just reading about that. That report came out from a couple of U of A, University of Arizona scientists. You know, things that we've been hearing about and talking about, for a number of years now, but, some people are kind of on the fence, or there's some naysayers and speculators, but, it seems like every week, or at least every month, there are major, major new reports coming out from the science community that just says that, what we're already feeling and seeing, but, they've got scientific evidence that, the snowpack has declined by, 41% since 1982.
Wow. And
as we were just discussing in the beginning of our show, I mean, the snowpack and the groundwater, that is, the world's water supply.
We got to save it.
Freshwater, that's the freshwater supply that humans and animals and farmers and everybody uses to live. And no water, no life.
And with more people and more animals, we got to really watch what we use.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah, no, it's tough. The weather is changing. That's changing water conditions and the conditions in which we live. And here is yet another, I think there were 4 scientific reports coming out that validate that and prove it, basically.
Yeah. With all of that and the things that you and I've talked about at the IA show, we talked about contaminated water and nitrates in the water and all those things. I mean, it's people got to stop and think about all this, because it's not going to be that you go to your sink and turn the faucet on.
Yeah.
Someday it might not happen.
Yeah, we need to heed the call to action, such as our previous guest, Julian Cribb from Australia, who wrote the book Surviving the 21st Century. Remember, he went over the 10 existential threats to humanity, and that sounds like a doomsday report, but it wasn't. It was uplifting. It was like, we have all these problems. The weather's changing. There's too many people on the planet and all these things. But we can change, and if we consciously do some things differently, like, think about our water use and live a more sustainable life and, vote with our dollar every day in the right direction, we can definitely overcome these issues.
Yeah, no. I think with a lot of the guests that we had on, there's, not only today, but in the whole history of our show, a lot of smart people, a lot of things can happen. It's just going to take time. So.
Yep, keep it moving forward. That's what we need to do.
Absolutely. So, Ingy, thank you again for your contribution today as our wonderful ag host. And again, want to thank Bill McDonald and Catherine Chandler of the California Irrigation Institute. And we will not be here next week. It's our Christmas break. They'll probably replay a show. But for anybody listening, we'll be joining back on the first week of January. Everybody have a good, happy, and safe holidays. And the most important thing that you all got to remember is think blue. Good night, everybody.
KCAA Loma Linda, 1050 AM, 106.5 FM, and now 102.3 FM.
California Headline News. With the clock ticking toward a possible federal government shutdown, President Trump has said he will not sign a temporary funding bill if it does not include money for the border wall. House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi says Republicans need to do something.
Republicans are in a state of disarray. We don't know what will happen next.
Republicans are working on a new bill, but its fate is uncertain. Some Malibu residents displaced by the Woolsey fire are complaining about greedy landlords. Joseph Nikita, director of the LA County Department of Consumer and Business Affairs, says they have received about a dozen reports of rent gouging immediately following the fire.
Anecdotally, we've heard a lot more things happening. Rents being increased to, $10,000 for something that was $5,000 before the fire.
And finally, investigators with the Sacramento Sheriff's Department are warning grocery shoppers of a new scam. A female will distract the victim, asking for help in finding the ingredients to a recipe. A second suspect then steals the wallet from the victim's purse. There are at least 7 victims so far. Steve Clausen, California News.
You're out for a jog, getting in the zone when...
Ew! Oh, it smells like rotten eggs!
Meanwhile, dirt is swirling in the air, and you hear a hissing noise.
Dude, it's a snake!
No, dude. A hissing sound, swirling dirt, or rotten egg odor can mean there's a natural gas leak. Natural gas lines can be buried anywhere. If you suspect a leak, leave immediately and call 911 and Southwest Gas.
Oh, thanks, deep-voiced narrator.
You're welcome, young person.
Get ready to feel the difference of the new Tomorrow Hybrid mattress. Designed by the world's leading sleep experts at Serta Simmons Bedding, the Tomorrow Hybrid mattress combines the luxurious comfort of memory foam with the unrivaled support